Welcome to the Plant Centered and Thriving podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Kitchens. Welcome to the show. My name is Ashley, and I am thrilled you are here today. As always, yes, I feel like I say that every time, but I genuinely mean it. Whether this is your first time listening or you are coming back for another episode, thank you for being here. Your support is seriously means so much. I have Dawnene on the show who is sharing her story with you. She is a stay-at-home mom turned plant-based nutritionist, woohoo, from British Columbia, Canada, and she's been eating a plant-based diet for almost 3 years. After influence from a close friend and watching the Game Changers documentary, which if you have not watched that documentary yet, whether you're new or whether you're a seasoned plant-based eater, I highly recommend it. So after they watched this, Dawnene and her family, her husband and 2 young daughters, turned vegetarian for their health. And then, which she goes into this entire story, once they were immersed in the vegetarian community, it wasn't long before their love of animals turned them towards a primarily plant-based diet. Becoming plant-based drastically changed Dawnene's health and outlook on life and the world, which if you're listening to this and you've gone plant-based, I'm sure you can relate. And Dawnene talks about how it started out for one reason, but it turned into multiple reasons the further into her plant-based journey she got. And she felt compelled to help others feel the same. So guess what she did? She went back to school to become a nutritionist, and now she helps moms and busy women stop dieting and eat more plants so they can lead a healthy lifestyle and feel like themselves again. Join me in welcoming Dawnene and her plant-based journey, which she shares with us, to the show. Welcome to the show, Dawnene.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited and very thankful that you took the time to come and just share your journey, your plant-based journey with our listeners. So before we get
Of
into
course.
all of those details, would you just kind of give us a brief background on who you are, what you do, what life is like where you live, all that great stuff?
Oh, sure. Yeah. My name's Dawnene. I recently graduated from nutrition school, actually. So I'm a registered holistic nutrition practitioner here in Canada. I work with moms to help them elevate their nutrition with plants so they can have more energy, find balance with food, and feel their best. Before that, I was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years, which is why I
Oh,
chose to work with moms.
yeah.
And I've been plant-based for almost 3 years.
Yay! I get this question a lot. So when I became a dietitian, I was not plant-based. I was not vegan. In fact, I didn't think very highly of going plant-based or vegan at the time. So what was it like going back to school and being plant-based?
I found a lot of the information is actually very plant forward, which I was
Oh,
surprised about. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So it was really interesting to kind of learn more about it past the research I'd already done for myself and my family. So yeah, very plant forward in my opinion anyways.
Good, good. I would
Mhm.
imagine that nutrition programs are becoming a bit more progressive in that area. At least I hope. I haven't heard
Mhm.
much about it, so it's good to know that it was pretty plant forward. At least the program that you attended was.
Nothing saying don't eat meat, don't have dairy, but it was definitely limit that amount and focus on eating more plants. So,
Yeah, yeah. Which
yeah.
there are some things in Canada that are a little bit more advanced, I would say, like more forward thinking in like their, I guess, approach to meat consumption, dairy consumption that we're us in the US, we're a little behind on. So you were a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. So you have kids, and it sounds like you went plant-based with the kiddos, with your family. So what kind of
Mhm.
prompted you to start this transition? Then I definitely want to dive into how your family handled it.
We had a couple family members and friends who were their men actually, and we found out that they were vegetarian. And I don't know why them being men made us go, oh, well, why did they stop eating meat? And they
Mhm.
had recommended watching Game Changers, the
Yes.
documentary. So we watched that. We watched What the Health, and my husband and I were like, let's try going vegetarian. Like, I don't think we need to eat meat anymore. So we did that. Our daughters were fine with that. We did that for about a month. And then I don't know if you know Erin Ireland. She's
I don't think
she's a
so.
she's she's a huge vegan advocate in Vancouver,
Okay.
which is not too far from where I live. And she, at the time, I was following her, and she was really pushing all these like YouTube videos that show what happens in the animal agriculture industry. And there was this one that she shared called Dairy is Scary. And
Mm.
I had my thumb on my screen holding her story open, thinking, if I watch this, I'm never going to eat dairy again. Like I know it. And that was
Wow.
just like a light bulb to me. Like, how can you eat it then if you know that if you knew it happened, that you won't eat it anymore?
Yeah.
So I watched it. I didn't even watch it. I could not watch it. I listened for like 2 minutes and I sent it to my husband and I was like, we're not doing this anymore.
Wow.
And that was that. And I just went totally cold turkey, which for my husband and I, that was fine. For my
Sure. Yep.
girls, it was a little more difficult because they were, just about 6 and 7.5 years old at the time.
Okay. Yep.
So that was a little bit more of a bumpy road,
Is yeah, enough to know that
yeah,
they knew that food was changing on the table, I'm sure.
yes, yes. And
Yeah.
trying to explain it to them without showing them,
Mm.
the graphic images that are just, it's not appropriate for
Yeah.
them to see. So pretty much when we eat at home, it's fully plant-based. When we eat out or at another person's house, my children have the choice of what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So as the years have gone on, they've they choose more and more to eat plant-based, which I'm like, yay.
Yeah, it's a proud mom moment.
It is.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah,
how was that? So when you first started this journey and you pretty much, like you said, went cold turkey, like what
mhm.
kind of challenges like came up for you when you did that?
I was very lucky to grow up in a family that was very, nutrition forward thinking, I guess. And my mom really taught my sister and I about healthy eating. And so just with that knowledge and then doing my own research, especially because I had children that, they're growing, I want to make sure that I'm not restricting foods that they should be eating.
Yep.
Um, I actually didn't find it too hard. And I think that COVID kind of helped with that because it was March 2020 that this all started. So
Really?
I was at home. I had all this time to try these new things. And so, yeah, I think that kind of helped with that.
Yeah. You kind of had some more time to maybe like research and make sure everything was going smoothly, maybe even like meal plan or figure out how you were going to make meals now without meat, without dairy.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Were there any challenges initially that you faced, whether it was from other people, other moms, or even just going to the grocery store and figuring out what the heck am I going to cook for dinner?
I feel like it was probably mostly family because like COVID was kind of happening, but we weren't totally isolated yet. So we were still, you know, seeing other family and then trying to figure out, well, we're having this. What are you going to eat when we all get together? And then for my one daughter, the biggest thing was milk because I
Oh,
breastfed them and then put them on whole milk right away when they were babies.
yep.
And then she was just like not happy that I took this milk away. So when we ate out, that was her like, I need to have milk.
Yeah, yes.
But
Did
it's funny, she didn't have it for such a long time. And then because of COVID, it got super more isolated. We didn't see anybody for like months, felt like. And then we finally branched out. She had the opportunity to have milk. She
no
hated it.
way.
And
Huh.
she doesn't drink milk anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Do you know why that was? Like what about it she didn't really like anymore?
It was just gross. She said, like, it just does not taste how I remember. And like, I
Yeah.
don't like it, mom.
You mentioned seeing things on social media or on YouTube, these videos that kind of show like what really goes on behind the scenes of like with animal agriculture. And I think you were spot on in saying that like we have like an idea of what's going on, but then when you
Hmm.
see it or you hear it, it's like, oh wow, like this just reaffirms everything that I kind of already knew. And from there, it sounds like it was an easy decision of like, okay, like I'm not going to support this industry anymore.
Absolutely. Health is a factor for me. The environment is a factor for me, but for me too, it's the animals and knowing what happens to them. Like, I just can't. I just can't invest my money into that
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So what did you notice as you and your family started going plant-based? Was there anything that you kind of noticed just like with your own body, how you were feeling, how, anyone in your family was feeling as you all transitioned?
Yeah, well, my husband lost like 40 pounds
Really?
in, the span of, a good chunk of time. But
Sure.
yeah, which I think it was a good thing. He's not underweight or anything, but
Yeah.
he was much healthier in that respect. I really was dealing with a lot of skin issues, but from like age 15 to now, I'm 35 now. So I probably dealt with acne of some nature for at least 15 years, if not more.
Wow.
And, I will still get the occasional one, but, you know, even 3 years ago, I was dealing with extreme cystic acne, and before that, I had gone on Accutane. Yeah, eating plant-based has really helped my skin for sure, and as well as, helping to regulate my periods and just get that all,
Yep.
um, into a good flow.
Mhm. Yep,
Yeah,
literally.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Did you notice a difference with your cystic acne, like, pretty soon after giving up meat, giving up dairy, or vice versa?
I did. My skin was good, and then I went off the birth control pill while I was plant-based, and then that just, like, I can't imagine what it would have been like had I not been plant-based at the time because I do think eating plant-based helped with that, but that's when I got the cystic acne was when after I went off the birth control pill. So I really had to, like, research, like, "Hey, what foods can I be eating to help my skin? What products can I be using?" Because I think, there's a lot of products out there that are maybe not the best
Yeah.
choices because they're not good for your gut health too. So just like really trying to find that balance of what worked for me and my skin. And so I think I found that. Like I said, I still deal with some every once in a while, but so far so good.
Yay! It sounds like nothing compared to what you were experiencing before.
I remember when we went vegetarian, I remember saying to people, like, after the first week of not eating meat, like, I just felt lighter in my gut
Mm,
area. Like,
yeah,
it was so hard to describe that, but I just felt lighter. And not that I felt heavy before, but it was just like, I don't know, just lighter.
mhm.
I also was having a lot of gas and bloating, and I was narrowed it down to chickpeas. Chickpeas were a big problem for me. So I just had to, cut way back and then gradually add them in.
I mean, what you said too is reigns true, and I know Dr. Bolsewitz, the gut health MD, would
Mhm.
say the same thing. If, like, you're experiencing discomfort when you're having something like legumes, is to not cut them out completely, but just scale back and kind of gradually add them back in to give your gut some time to adjust, especially if you're coming from eating what we would call the standard American diet, where it's not maybe super rich in legumes. So that can be kind of
Mhm.
helpful to get your body to adjust to those types of things.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what do meals look like for you now? What are maybe some favorite things that you and your family really enjoys eating, where before it wasn't maybe so appealing?
Before we still ate a lot of plants, so I really just tried to take our the meals that we were having and kind of flip them to make them plant-based. So especially in the beginning, we used more of like the mock meats type of things, like the Gardein or Impossible. Big Mountain Foods has a few different options as well. So yeah, what I do when I'm planning out our meals is I really try to think of having kind of a different legume every day if we can. So like one day we might have chickpeas and then the next day is lentils and the next day is black beans and the next day we have tofu, just something like that. But yeah, I really just tried to take the meals we were having and just kind of upscale them a little bit, especially because I had kids and they were used to certain foods.
Yes. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
know a lot of parents and caregivers are listening and they're thinking, like, either my child really struggled or I can never get my child to go plant-based or vegan. Were there any like tips or tricks that you did to get your kids on board?
I just keep offering things. So my one daughter is not picky at all. She'll just basically eat whatever I put in front of her. whereas my youngest definitely has more of an opinion. Even now, like right now, she's going through this phase of just like, I don't like peanut butter. Like, why? But so I keep offering it, and she comes home from school, Mom, you know that I don't like hummus and almonds. And I'm
Mm,
like, yeah, I know, but you got to keep trying it. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I got her on avocados doing that. So
there you go.
yeah, yeah. I've never ever made them their own separate meal.
Mm,
Um, when I was growing up, I was picky, and my mom was like, "You have to eat what we're eating, because I'm not making two different things." And so I do the same with my kids too. So I make sure that there's something on the plate that she likes, and then encourage her to try the other things as well.
yeah, yeah. I like that. I like the idea of continuing to offer them the even if it's the same food that they've rejected just over and over again until eventually one of these
Hmm.
days, fingers crossed, they're going to say yes, like you did with the avocados.
Exactly.
So going back to what you said at the beginning of how you started your vegetarian journey, it was a couple male friends that you were like, they were vegetarian. And I think that highlights, really just the fact that like we kind of associate meat with masculinity or like, oh, men are supposed to eat meat. And I know I'm sure some of you can,
Totally.
yeah, some of you can remember listening like those ads that we would see probably 20, 30 years ago of like, these men eating big burgers and like the TV dinners that had like lots of meat in it. So I think that's really important to highlight as well as like, oh, okay, well, if they can do it, like why can't I do it? Or why can't your husband do it, for example?
I think there's a lot of societal stereotypes and misinformation around plant-based eating.
What kind of things maybe did they say? Or like were they up in your face, like you have to go vegan, like you should be, or vegetarian, you should be doing this? Or was it more of like a gentle approach? Like what was it about them that really was like, okay, I'm gonna look into this. I'm gonna go watch the Game Changers.
Yeah, I think it was just unexpected. Like we just didn't expect these two family members and friends to be vegetarian. Like, oh, like it just was surprising. So yeah, that kind of prompted us, okay, we need to look into this, and if they're doing it, I need to find out why.
Is there any piece of advice that you would go back and tell yourself, or for someone right now who maybe has kids and they're thinking about it, but it's like, oh, I don't know if my kids are going to get on board? Like, what kind of advice would you give yourself as you were going vegetarian and then vegan?
I feel like maybe it's cliche, but I feel like most people that go plant-based just wish they'd done it sooner. Like, I'm
Yes.
totally like that. I totally feel like I was meant to be vegan. I only ate meat because I thought I had to eat it to get my protein, right? And when I found out I didn't have to anymore, it was kind of like, oh, I don't have to eat these animals anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think too is to just go slow. Like I know I didn't really go slow, but that's not going to be a good way to go for most people, I think. So even just starting with like a meatless Monday and then do that for a month and then add another weekday in and then just keep doing that until you really just have to find what works best for you.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's such a great point. One, going slow, because you're right. Most people don't have the capacity to do it overnight or to do it in a week, transition from like the standard American diet to a vegan diet. And so I really appreciate you highlighting that. If there's one thing I feel like all vegans, plant-based eaters would agree on, it's that, oh, I wish I would have, done it sooner. So yeah,
Yes.
I couldn't agree
Yes.
more.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I just feel like going plant-based has really changed my life. Like I feel like
Mhm.
I look at the world differently. I just feel like it's a super compassionate way to live. Like it's not just food, it really becomes a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And like you said, you had kind of a specific reason as to why you were doing it in the beginning, but it sounds like that over the past few years has really changed and deepened as to why you're continuing to be vegan, plant-based.
I feel like once you're in that space and you start doing research, you start following different people. Like I wouldn't have ever followed you if I hadn't been plant-based probably, right? So you are are watching all these other social media influencers and yeah, just doing your own research and just finding out more information. It just really becomes a way of living.
I like that. A way of living. Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
with you being the mom of two school-aged kids, how has that been just from maybe other parents or other judgments, if you have even received judgments from other people saying, maybe questioning what you're doing or Has your doctor ever said anything or your pediatrician said anything to you?
It's not something we're super vocal about, I guess. I don't think that my girls say anything at school. Like they've said, like, I don't tell anyone that I'm vegan. And I think there's a little bit of like anxiety there about like being questioned about it, right? Parents, because the girls are allowed to decide what they want to do outside of the house, I don't really say anything. So if they're at a friend's house and they have chicken strips or whatever, like that's up to them if they want to eat that. So I don't even know. I think some parents know. My doctor, I think he was a little bit apprehensive at first, but when I explained, how I go about it, kind of what things I supplement in their diet for them, he was just kind of like, "Oh, okay, well, you seem to know what you're doing." So he's really great that way.
Good, good. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
sure he wanted to know that like you're kind of researching, making sure they're getting everything you need. And like that probably puts his mind at ease, just like it's probably put your mind at ease.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point too, is you don't have to go around telling everyone that you're plant-based or vegan. You don't have to tell other moms or their parents. Like it really is up to you how you want to kind of express how you eat. It doesn't
Hmm.
have to be, you don't have to shout it from the rooftops. You can just kind of do you without having to tell everybody. I feel like that's a great way because sometimes when people are in your face and saying, yeah, well, I'm vegan, I'm
Hmm.
plant-based, like this is the way that I eat, sometimes that can be a turnoff. And so sometimes it's helpful for other people to just kind of go about their business. And then you end up finding out like, oh, wait, Dawnene and her family are plant-based. What? It's
Yeah,
like, wow,
yeah.
like I never noticed. That's so cool, and it's not like they're preachy or like in your face about it. So sometimes that can be just setting that example can be more impactful.
Yeah, yeah. I think maybe that was kind of our point in that too, is I don't want to come across as like pushing other people to do it because sometimes people hear that and then they're like, okay, you're gonna make me want to do it. You're gonna try to make me do it too.
Yep.
And I don't want to hear anything about it,
Yeah.
which I would never do that. But there's that automatic like defense mechanism comes up, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, we just if yeah, when people find out, they find out, and if they don't, then they don't. And like
Yeah.
it is our way of living, but it doesn't precede us in
Hmm.
any way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like just like people aren't judging you for your lifestyle, you're not going around judging other people for, oh, well, they still eat meat or they still drink dairy, which I think that just speaks volumes as well. So Donnie, tell us a little bit more about what you do in working with moms. And then I'll ask people like where they can find you and follow you and all that.
My goal in working with moms is to take the confusion and overwhelm out of nutrition. I think for women especially, we all want to eat healthier and we don't know how to do it. And there's so much misinformation or even real information, and you just don't know how to process it and don't know what to do with it. So I think moms, maybe not especially, but you are your time is just so invested in your kids and you're not making time for yourself.
Mhm.
And so I just really want to help moms, you know, learn to prioritize their health and wellness so that they can be there for themselves and for their family and feel good and be, the healthiest version of themselves. So I work one-on-one with moms to kind of figure all that out in a custom tailored way that works best for them, working gradually to do that. I don't want to do a huge like cold turkey type of thing.
Yeah.
I don't suggest that people go plant-based. You don't have to go plant-based or be plant-based. It's just really focusing on eating more plants.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's beautiful too, and empowering them to show up for themselves so they can truly show up for their family, which is of most importance.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, where can people connect with you? What is the best place for them to find you online?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and my handle is purely plantiful. And then if you want to learn about my services on my website, you can go to purelyplantiful.ca/services.
Wonderful. And we'll include those links in the show notes so you can easily go and check out Dawnene and everything that she has to offer. If you want to connect with her, ask her questions, feel free to do that too. Dawnene, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Until next time, keep thriving.